What's up, everyone? Thomas here with ForReel, and we are wrapping up Tribeca Festival. There was a fantastic amount of variety in the lineup, as usual at Tribeca, and we are excited to talk about a few of those titles. Who is this we that I'm referring to? Well, I'm glad you asked. On the line with me, I have fellow ForReel writer in Vancouver, Taylor Beaumont on the line.
Howdy, howdy.
And of course, frequent flyer on ForReel content in Seattle, I've got Taylor Baker on the line as well.
Round of applause for the Taylor B's in the video.
Yeah. I love featuring both Taylor B's at the same time. It's always fun talking with you both, but it's just always such a cool arrangement. So
when we combine, our powers are greater.
Yeah, and I'm just here to observe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. You know your place.
Well, how is everyone enjoying the virtual film festival experience while we still have it?
It's running pretty smooth. As always, I wish that I could see the exact aspect ratio that is being selected. But other than that nitpick, I haven't had any hangups with the on-demand portion of the festival. And I think this is probably one of the smoothest it's been out of the festivals we've attended this year, despite some early hiccups with actually getting the website to function in the early days. Since then, it's been really reliable.
Yeah, I'll echo that as well. My approach to the festival this year has been rather casual, I'd say. And the online on-demand platform has really just allowed me to approach it casually and watch when I want to watch. And of course, I will repeat, I'll be the broken record here and say that once again, I'm in Canada and I'm geo-blocked from some content, but nonetheless, I've seen a lot of things that I did want to see and enjoyed the process. And it's been smooth running in terms of, technology and the viewing experience on my end. So yeah,
it's okay, Beaumont. We're not in New York, so we were also geo-blocked from some things. So
I've
lots
heard,
of things.
I know.
I guess I'll echo a lot of what you guys said. I think that as usual, we're just grateful that festivals are still hosting virtual versions of the festival. And one thing in particular that I'm thankful for here with Tribeca, and I'm seeing this more with festivals, is how the in-person festival will happen for a particular date range, but the virtual festival will go for like a week longer after that. And I think that just really allows for the kind of flexibility I want out of the festival, for being able to watch as much as possible with the daily life constraints that we have. And so yeah, that is the case. I do, and I think I also approach this festival from a casual perspective, not just in like how many movies I chose to watch, but also adjusting my expectations for what would be available. I think that there was just, we've been to enough of these to where there's a lot of frustration with like, I would love to watch this movie, why don't I have access to that? And I think that after doing that for so long now, I'm just like, you know what, whatever's available is what's available, and I'm just going to watch the best of what there is that I can access. And so I think expectations for me have been adjusted in that way. And with that in mind, there were a couple of movies that I really enjoyed. So how about we jump into one of them? I think we're going to start with talking about the film, The Integrity of Joseph Chambers. This film is written and directed, Baker, you're gonna have to help me out with his last name, Robert Machoyan. I knew you're on top of it. The description reads: in a stark and brooding psychological drama, a family man, who's played by Clayne Crawford, hoping to prove his survivalist capabilities and manliness to his family, decides to irresponsibly head off into the woods and go deer hunting by himself. Baker, since you helped me out with that last name, why don't you lead off here? How did you feel about The Integrity of Joseph Chambers?
That's a complex question. This is one of the directors and actors that I probably have the most unrealistic expectations for. I adored The Killing of Two Lovers. I really appreciated its film quality, aspect ratio, the way that the entire film feels like you not only don't know what's going to happen, but the kettle has been on the stove screeching for like 4 hours, and you just have no idea if someone's going to pull it off and pour the hot water on themselves, or pull it off, open it, and everything's going to go all right. And so I was waiting for something really compelling, really taut to envelop me. And while sticking to both what Klain does as a kind of character actor, someone who goes through pretty rigorous like physical actions to try to bring his character to life, and the aspect ratio maintaining some sort of control, best exemplified with watching Klain walk up a hill in a very specific way, walk through the trees in a very specific way, skip rocks in a specific location. So it starts from one end of the frame and ends in the other. There's a lot of aesthetic things that I really enjoyed, but it meanders and it does not have that tautness. Despite having a good score, which I think you agree with me on, Thomas, there's a lot missing here that I was hoping would be brought back from that previous collaboration that these two artists had in The Killing of Two Lovers.
I think that's a fair assessment. Beaumont, you actually published a review on this one.
Yeah, and I will say that well, just going back to The Killing of Two Lovers, I really liked that film as well, but it fell a little short for me. I liked a lot of what was going on, especially the sound design, the pacing, how the film just kind of like felt like it was just kind of lurching and stumbling forward, and kind of like almost as someone like who was drunk would do. Like it just felt like it was kind of going forward in that kind of like uncontrolled, somewhat deliberate, but also misguided manner, and that kind of obviously is reflected in the main character. It's a lot as well in that film. And this one is kind of a repetition of, it's the same kind of idea where it's a fragile male ego that's kind of at stake here, and he's kind of just fumbling his way through things the best he can. So yeah, so I liked The Killing of Two Lovers a lot. I just felt it fell a little short in terms of the acting and some of the dialogue, just feeling a little unnatural for me. But I think the integrity of Joseph Chambers, while it does repeat a lot of those good things that we got out of The Killing of Two Lovers, sound design being great, the score being great, just the way it was shot was really cool as well. But I just felt just a little too sparse. This one, a little too sparse in terms of narrative, a little too slow paced, a little too straightforward for me as well. A stripped back narrative can be very refreshing at times. This is very much a movie that is about, it's really just one man and a camera team. I know there's other supporting characters that make brief appearances in this film, but it really just feels like a man out in the woods with a filming team. And yeah, so it's very stripped back in that sense, and it just left me just wanting more. And I just wish it could have, made more, dynamic strides towards what it was trying to tell, what the story was trying to tell. So yeah, a little too slow for me, and I just didn't get caught up in the tension like I did with The Killing of Two Lovers. This was just, it was just something that it needed more oomph to kind of get it to a place where it really stuck with me.
Yeah, I think I'll be kind of the opposing voice here, because although I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying for sure, I think the experience was something that I was invested in, and maybe that's because I'm the odd one out here and have not seen The Killing of Two Lovers yet, and so maybe that contributes. But I went into this, not really knowing what I'm getting into, which is how I really like to go into films, and the movie does some really great things with like tension and suspense and like As Baker mentioned, the score is just super robust here. A lot more robust than the plot is actually. So, and on top of that, you then have this like incredible sound design where just with the ambience of the forest, and they do some very interesting things with sound design in the film as well. And so I think as far as the experience goes, I was a fan of like what it was accomplishing like cinematically, I guess. Where it fell short for me is just in the fact that I do think, Bowman, I think you mentioned meandering. I think that is certainly a way to explain how this, 30-40 minute premise was stretched into an hour and a half, right? And so I kind of wish that there was something a little bit more, that there was there's a big inciting event, but like that there was something bigger to the point than what it ends up concluding with. I think that the theme that I got out of this movie, or the thing that I walked away from in this movie, I think could have been communicated in the short film, and I kind of wish that there was more to this feature length version of this premise. But ultimately, as far as the experience goes, I think that there's certainly a I mean, it's a psychological thriller premise. I just don't know if it's a psychological thriller movie as it is. But yeah, there was enough to enjoy until I got to the end, and then kind of came to the conclusion that maybe I would have liked a little bit more. So good experience, but there I think there could have been more to it. And I won't say that again. It's like my third time saying it.
Two quick points I want to make on the sound design, which both of you mentioned. I think specifically the Foley work is what cemented this film. The Foley artists are the people that make the sound effects that you hear, and the perfection of the rustling leaves as he walks with every single step. I actually rewound the film and just watched for 5 minutes where he's walking, and it was just incredible how perfectly timed the leaves would be falling off his boot, and we would hear the correct sound for that specific step that he was taking. It's very unique and independent films of this budget to see such a really almost perfect Foley design. And then I don't know if you guys thought about this at all, but this is one of the few films where I've just seen someone actually walk through real woods, like woods that are not specifically for being shot in, where the trees are not lined up to compose a pretty shot, and we're watching a man have to pick which way he's going to go through the trees. Perhaps it was rehearsed, but there's a few moments where we see him start one way, go back another, and I can't think of any time in recent memory or distant where I've had the opportunity to see someone actually walking through woods in this way. Just kind of a interesting nugget that I found.
Tom Cruise running in in Top Gun Maverick. I thought that was totally authentic.
Very practical.
Of course. No, I think that you're right. There is a lot that feels authentic to this, where this character is just wandering through the forest, and it feels like he's just wandering. He's kind of aimless, not really doing anything, not really sure what to do. And yeah, I guess it wouldn't seem like it takes a lot of acting to do that, but I think that you do have to set up the right situation to pull that off on camera and make it authentic. So I actually appreciate that you brought that up. And with the sound design, I watched it on my TV, which I have a decent sound system, but there are times where I'm like, man, some of the sound design I could fall asleep to. I need headphones. I need this to be like an ASMR experience right now. This so yeah, I definitely appreciated that. So you know what, Beaumont, I want to give you a chance now to kind of pick out something that you had seen and feel is worthy to highlight at this point.
Well, I've got to shout out Karaoke, which I don't know if either of you guys have seen, but yeah, that's kind of my highlight. It's a very modest little film. It's a very humble and close to the heart kind of film, but it really just struck me as just very warmly authentic. and just a nice film to just cuddle up with, kind of. It's Israeli film. The director is I'm gonna probably mispronounce this, but Moshe Rosenthal, and it's a story of two people in their 60s, husband and wife, who live in an apartment building in Tel Aviv, and above them on the penthouse suite kind of moves in this kind of freewheeling kind of playboy character with lots of money, and he's just kind of likes to show off his wealth and host parties and so forth. And eventually the husband and wife get invited up to a couple of the parties, which turn out to be karaoke parties, and this kind of encourages the couple to kind of come out of their shell, pursue things that they thought they didn't have it in them to pursue anymore, kind of let loose a little bit, but also kind of like get back to, maybe what they were more interested in when they were younger, such as the husband's interest in acting and the wife's interest in dancing. And it just unfolds in a very naturalistic way. It's a story that the director based on kind of experiences with his own parents and his own experiences in high school. So in many ways, it's kind of like a coming of age film about people in their 60s, because, you are still coming of age. Everyone's kind of coming of age. You're always trying to figure out where you should be at in your stage of life. And this film captures this beautifully. It was probably my highlight of the festival, I think, thus far. So yeah, I just want to give that shout out to that one. Check it out if you haven't. I think it should still be available on the streaming platform on Tribeca. So yeah,
I read your review on it, and the more I read your review, the more interested I became in on this movie. You definitely sold me on it, because I think that it sounds like a really, like, we watched Celts together, and you actually compared it to Celts, and I think that type of storytelling, and that's I think that there's a lot to enjoy about that, and what you're explaining and coming of age, and like there's more complexity to this, this couple who is older, and I think it's interesting. It'll be an interesting perspective on life. I can't wait to see it.
Wonderful. Tell me all about it.
There's a little more time for me to catch it at the festival on the virtual platform. And
Excellent.
Baker, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Well, I can tell you why Thomas and I didn't watch this film. It's over 90 minutes and is not in the English language. Therefore, we automatically rule it out.
Yes, we default to Beaumont on those.
If it was not in the middle of a festival where I'm trying to watch as much as possible, I definitely would have sought it out. It piqued my interest early, but the prospect of finding the time to really pay attention for an hour and 40 minutes, I didn't have in me. But if you vouch for it, then I will watch it. And if I don't like it, you will take full responsibility, Beaumont.
We will do. I will do a follow-up video. I want to like check in at the end of the festival and be like, Baker hated it.
I suspect I won't, because I really do like these period happy pieces, especially about people in that kind of older middle age where they're we'll get to Jerry and Marge, but
yeah, we're gonna get there.
I like these types of kind of heartwarming pieces.
Yeah, for sure. So it's glad that we have that on our radars now. I think the next movie we'll talk about is a comedy. Wes Schlagenhaf is Dying, directed by Parker Seaman, written by Parker Seaman and Devin Das, also starring both of them. The description, the synopsis reads, an irrelevant and eccentric road trip comedy that celebrates DIY filmmaking. Wes Schlagenhaf is Dying follows two filmmakers who set out to make their masterpiece while on a journey towards an estranged, purportedly languishing friend. So Beaumont, let's start with you on this one. What did you think about Wes Schlagenhaf is Dying?
Well, I'm gonna be a bit of a wet blanket here, because I don't know, I'm getting a little tired of the COVID film, guys. Not gonna lie.
I think I saw a tweet
little tired of
or a story, an Instagram story from you about this.
Yeah,
it's about time. I was tired last year at some point.
Yeah, no, me in many respects as well. I understand that the pandemic forced a lot of filmmakers to work within, limited means with limited crews and limited budgets and all that kind of stuff. I can appreciate, trying your best to be innovative and, tell a story that's closer to you in the circumstances because you can't reach out like you normally can. That's what the pandemic, taught us, that we have to kind of learn to work with ourselves and be with ourselves a little bit more. And this film does that, but it just, I don't know, it just comes off as a little hokey. The characters are just they're just too plucky and witty for their own good. They're just I just don't think that these kinds of people exist in these kinds of situations and say these things. You can kind of tell when they're reciting the dialogue that they're just so self-satisfied with the funny lines that they've written. And granted, there are some funny lines, and there are a couple lines that made me laugh and a couple good one-liners and just funny moments. But you can just tell that when they're saying it, they're just oh yeah, this is so good. I know this is gonna kill, kind of thing. And that just kind of took me out of it. And then the whole concept is they're given the advice to pursue a film, an idea that's just so specific to them that it will have this universal appeal. And don't worry that it's so specific to you and what you're telling, but it'll have this universal appeal. But then I've seen this COVID movie before. There was a movie called, I think it's called Stop and Go now, but it was called Recovery, that was at South by Southwest last year. And it's the exact same movie, except it's not about filmmaking. It's just about two friends on a road trip going to see someone who's sick with COVID. But I'm that's been a movie before. It's not, they didn't get down to something that specific about the pandemic experience that I think they were going for. It's they did find something very universal about the pandemic experience. So that kind of just counteracted their whole, mission, their statement mission. So yeah, it just kind of, it took me out of it.
So let me get this straight. You wouldn't want to watch the other Tribeca film alone together about a guy and a girl who end up in the same Airbnb during the pandemic, right? Does that not sound appealing to you? Has that movie not been made as well?
Well, that movie has been made as well.
Yes,
wasn't that a movie called 7 Days?
There's actually a couple versions of that film.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing is that when people make these movies, it's not like they call dibs. And so everyone just makes so I get your point though. I totally understand that. Baker, do you feel the same way about pandemic films? Tell me all about it.
I do, but I want to underscore and exemplify and applaud the consistency of Beaumont, because he has Wes Schlagenhaf and Stop and Go rated exactly the same at 1.5 stars. So I went on a little letterbox dive there as you ranting, and I had to look that up. It is called Stop and Go still.
It's Stop and Go now. That's right. Yeah.
Yes. I really despise COVID films in general. It started with that Anne Hathaway Chiwetel Ejiofor flick on HBO, and very early on in the pandemic. I feel like it was one of the first direct to HBO Max conceived, shot, and edited all in COVID, that took place in COVID. There's just very few of these self-reflexive pieces, and much of what Beaumont is underscoring is what I disliked about Wes Schlagenhaf, except for he, as he pointed out, there are certain lines that do kill me. We could be the first legit movie on Pornhub. There's just a certain jackass appeal to it, where they know that they're stupid. They know that they're hacks. It's kind of framed within that. And this is the sort of reflexiveness that I can smile at, but I would never have sought out and would never seek out again. It's just one of the few things where I was able to enjoy this Huck Finn narrative of COVID. and I normally can't. So I don't really know what the magic thing is, but the fact that I didn't hate it, it's as mysterious as
The dark
anything.
side of the moon.
Exactly. How about you, Thomas? Why did
Yeah.
you love this movie so?
Okay, hold
gosh
on. Let's
dang
be
much?
careful with 4-letter words, okay? Like I enjoyed it, right? And I think I enjoyed it for that self-awareness of it. I don't think
I think I have some signal messages that might disagree with what you're saying right now.
I'm gonna have to go back and read what I wrote on Signal.
Check the archives.
I know, right? You should go deep dive into that. But I think that I enjoyed it. There were some parts I remember laughing out loud at. And I think that I just I'm not as over COVID movies as you guys are. I think that they are getting tired very quickly. But for me, I'm still able to kind of like look past the COVID lens, and try to get the story out. And I don't know, like I like movies about friendship, and the self-awareness of it was comical. I think that ultimately it kind of, like you said, Baker, there's a certain jackassery to it. Like it's so self-aware that how can I not, like, it's not taking itself too seriously, so why should I, so I think that ultimately that's what I got out of it. It does come off as like one of those like films that are good. And we'll talk about, again, we keep mentioning Jerry and Marge, but for me, it was one that is just an easy watch, like in the middle of a festival, super easy watch, super easy to get through.
That might be part of it, because I was like 15 films in a couple days, and it was like the first lighthearted thing. But if we do want to go back to the record, I have
we are
a
going
message
back to the record
from Thomas Stoneham-Judge in
what
Signal.
did I say?
OMG, abbreviated. I'm loving, all caps, Wes Schlagenhaf is dying.
I did say loving. Oh man.
You did.
Okay.
And then after I replied, you said the self-aware comedy is fire emoji.
Fire emojis. Okay, so look, there's some consistency there. All right. Like, I did enjoy it. Again, overall, overall, it's I have to be careful telling people that I love this movie, because I don't want to get everyone else.
Well, I see why you would love it, right?
Yeah.
It's like the formula is the exact thing that I hate.
Yeah, there is a formula to it.
I did like it. I liked what's her name, who is making fun of the portrayal of actors who work in commercials. I really like the main character in the title, who's not really the main character at all in the film, aside from his Huck Finn storyline of the fake funeral, and how he like just walks out in the costume in the beginning. Yeah. Like there's certain things that are personal, where they do take Mark Duplass's line. However, if I wasn't watching it in the specific environment that I was watching it, I probably wouldn't have had the time that I did. But that's part of why festivals are unique.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, thank you for fact checking
You're welcome.
My own
You're
words.
Welcome. Gotta watch yourself.
I
know, right?
People are watching. People
don't worry. You can always edit this out.
I could. I'm not going to though. I'll keep this. I think this is good. This is holding me accountable to what I say. That's fine.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
You know what, Baker? Since you called me out, I'm gonna let you spotlight a film now.
All right. I will not spotlight my favorite film of the festival. I will spotlight my most enticing or exciting director of the festival, Del Catherine Barton. She made a film called Blaze. She's previously made 2 short films. One's called The Nightingale and the Rose, and the other is called Red. She made Red with Kate Blanchett, and she made The Nightingale and the Rose with Mia Wasikowska. Those are pretty short runtime films, but the aesthetic, it seems, that she curated there really comes across in this film Blaze, which is about a young girl who witnesses a brutal, and I mean brutal, like you're watching Gaspar Noé put a rape on film, rape at the beginning of the film. And this is a like 12-year-old girl, from what I recall. And you're watching her try to navigate, not only watching it begin to happen and then happen, and then the rest of the film is her trying to process it, telling her father, dealing with telling the authorities, going to the hospital to have anything taken from her off of her body, getting some mental help, and how she's coping with that is her imagination coming up with these different creatures. They really exemplify the dragon, especially in the cover art, though that's one of the probably most minimal pieces. She's got like this giant glittery creature that I wouldn't even know how to describe, that manifests itself in her bedroom, and all these different relationships under the covers of her bed with these mysterious and magical creatures. And the way that Del Catherine is bringing that to life is one of the most refreshing and invigorating and controlled pieces of cinema I've watched this year. I did not love the film, but it's one of the most original voices that I've seen emerge in direction this year. And I think that she deserves to be highlighted wherever there's an opportunity, because this is the type of filmmaker that could really make a long-lasting name for herself and kind of change what we think about as far as what aesthetics are common within cinema.
Yeah, I actually did have a chance to watch this one as well, and I agree with everything. Actually, on your recommendation, I watched it, and yeah, I think that everything you're talking about here it makes a lot of sense for this film. No, it's not one of my favorite films at the festival, but there's certainly a lot going on with it from a filmmaking perspective, from an artistry perspective, and also just being able to handle this kind of story with the poise that it has. I guess I think that there's a
That's
lot
a
of
great word.
Yeah, for sure, there's a lot of
Poise.
craft to it. And so yeah, I also recommend viewing this one through that lens of like the introduction of a someone who could be a really, really great director if this opens opportunities for her.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what she does next, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Beaumont, anything you want to add to that?
All I'll say is that I haven't seen it, but it is rocketing with a ferocious pace to the top of my watch list. Because yeah, the way you both have spoken about it, it just has me insanely jazzed, and it sounds like you said, Baker, something that'll be right up my alley. And I
was
also
actually
just want to check out the other short films that this director has done as well, because they sound really, really interesting.
I remember watching Blaze thinking, man, Beaumont's gonna love this. I really think Beaumont's gonna like this. I just have a feeling.
Yes, you're thinking of me.
Yes, of course. I need more of your words on film, and so I think that's one you're gonna really enjoy writing about. Cool. Let's talk about Baker. We talked a little bit about this one before the festival and the curtain raiser, but I think it'll be fun to dive more into what we thought about it now that it has screened, and that is The Courtroom, which is directed by Rebecca Choi. And the synopsis reads: after mistakenly registering to vote, a Filipina immigrant faces deportation and permanent separation from her American husband and newborn child. Using actual transcripts from the court hearing, The Courtroom is a dramatic reenactment of one woman's harrowing experience in the U.S. legal system. And actually, because we talked about it at least a little bit before, I'm gonna have Beaumont start on this one and give his his impressions of the movie.
Just real quick, I gotta correct you. You said it's directed by Rebecca Choi. It's directed by Lee Sunday Evans. It's his directorial debut.
Sorry, I don't know why I put the wrong name. That's cool. Thank you for correcting me.
There's probably another film out there called The Courtroom.
That's right. Well, thanks for correcting me. But Beaumont, what was your impression on this film?
So it's fresh in my mind, but obviously I'm still trying to kind of process all my thoughts on it. But I'll just say that the very stripped down approach, meaning this is a film that is really just set in courtrooms. It is a recreation of these proceedings that took place, with the dialogue being, transcribed directly from those proceedings, for a very stripped down approach with, minimal actors. Literally just the sets are clearly built on these dark sound stages. It just had me way more grip than I thought it would. I was completely invested in all the words being spoken. I was trying to found myself just trying to decipher everything and work my own way through the legal mumbo jumbo that was kind of being thrown at me. A lot does get thrown at you, but it is still, I'd say, you can pick it up, you follow along with it. And yeah, it just really capitalizes on the natural drama that emerges from these courtroom proceedings that are happening every day. And granted, I don't know for sure, but things like this are probably happening in the US and probably in Canada too, like every day. And there's just so much, just so much, I don't know what, there's just so much tension, so much like natural drama that emerges from these situations. And this film really capitalizes on that. And that's also thanks in part to the fantastic acting that goes on here. I was really blown away by the defensive attorney, I believe, played by Linda Powell, who I believe is playing a male defense attorney. But fantastic job. The kind of the closing remarks, or whatever you call them, that she delivers in the main stretch of the film was just super powerful. Obviously a lot of emotion being restrained there because it's in a courtroom setting, has to be done in a professional way that addresses the judge, but there's still a lot of just simmering emotion there, and you can tell she's just like really doing everything in her power to stand up for the little guy in the US legal system. And it really struck a chord with me. So yeah, I was very impressed, and I want to take some time to process it a bit more, but yeah.
I am very happy you liked it so much. And just to clarify, Rebecca Choi is the associate producer of this movie. It's in the space that is normally where director is on the website. So that's my mistake. So thank you again for the clarification. Baker, tell me more about what you thought about this, because like I've been saying, we talked a little bit about it, but now we can go into a little more detail.
Yeah, on the technical side, I think this is a really I guess not historic, but this is a very interesting debut film, not only for the director, but for Arian Moayed, the writer. It's his first feature film that he's ever written. He's best known as a performer in Succession, Inventing Anna, Spider-Man, stuff like that. So it's an interesting turn from him. The reasons that I enjoy it are largely echoed by what Beaumont said about the restrictive setting, allowing the viewer to really just gestate and sit with the way that these proceedings played out, and the enactment portrayed so thoroughly of this woman and the relationship that she has with her husband and the courtroom, watching her try to act proud, something that I think all of us could echo, or we could imagine our relatives doing if they were in a similar situation in the beginning when asked if they need a translator, even though it seems like they definitely do, saying no, that type of a thing. Just the stripped down humanity of this is really special. And the cinematography, because it's so restrictive and the background is dark consistently, it really brings out where it's well lit. It really brings out the skin tone. It's just one of the most aesthetically pleasing and taut court films that I've seen in recent memory. I think I said this in the opening video, but I'll just underline it. I would much rather watch this than the trial of the Chicago 7. Like this is, to me, what I'm interested in about the courtroom, the human story, not the big bombastic characters that are brought into a courtroom that we so often see, but this everyday experience of a human, and how it can almost feel like you're in a jail or in a prison when you're in this courtroom. You have to behave in a certain way. You have to comprehend what these legal terms mean. And even though you have a good faith argument for why you shouldn't receive a punishment, you are at the mercy of whatever the law was and the precedent is. And it's just a great depiction of all those different layers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with both of you on everything. There's so much to really appreciate about this movie. I know I was caught up a lot with, like, I don't know, the discourse between the attorney and the judge, because as a viewer, I'm not very much into law. My extent of law knowledge is like Judge Judy and People's Court, right? Like I don't really
I know
don't
there's a show called Law and Order.
and you know what, I'm telling you, Judge Judy is like on every day, okay, like that. But listening to the conversations back and forth, like I'm thinking, obviously this was a mistake, just like let her go. But there's so many intricate components to how the law has to work itself out, that you can't just like see someone is appears to be appears to have made a genuine mistake. You can't work off of that. You have to work off what the law is and what the precedent is. And there is, and it's very likely that the case could go either way, because it's a strong argument, but what is the precedent? And so I spent a lot of time in the film like just trying to come to terms with the fact that that's how the law works, and it makes sense, and that's great. But man, it can be kind of stressful. Like, you want this woman to be able to stay with her family, and you want this mistake to have some forgiveness to it, but you just don't know if that's how it's going to turn out because of how the law works. So I really appreciated the thriller, I guess, aspect of it, of the courtroom drama. But yeah, but again, but also for all the technical reasons that you guys talked about, it's certainly a very good, a great presentation, especially with the performances. Just the fact that it's adapted from the actual transcripts and not adapted with dramatizations. Like, I mean, it seems dramatized, but like it's just really, really good acting. So anything else to say on the courtroom?
Yeah, it's one of the most effective like feature film pitches for reformation in law. It's like you watch this and you're like, oh yeah, she shouldn't have been in trouble at all. We should fix that, guys.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody agrees. Yeah, let's fix that.
Look into that, right? It's interesting though, because this leads almost very directly into the film that I want to highlight that I saw during the festival, which is the film Aisha. It doesn't have to do with immigration necessarily, but more of a refugee situation. Written and directed by Frank Berry. The synopsis reads: Aisha, who's played by Letitia Wright. Most people know her from Black Panther, playing Shuri. A young Nigerian woman seeking asylum in Ireland is floundering in a maze of social services and bureaucracy. As her situation becomes increasingly dire, Aisha struggles to maintain hope and dignity against the looming threat of deportation. So I actually watched this movie a couple times. I thought that it was very well done in really putting the audience in this very this deteriorating situation of that's hard to maintain hope for. Like, you really want, again, it's another case where you want this well-meaning person to have the outcome that they're looking for in the legal situation, but the legal situation has to deal with precedent and rules and bureaucracy. And there are times when it could be a really depressing film, because she just has a hard time catching a break. There's so many roadblocks and challenges, and being put in that position where you're trying to maintain a livelihood. You have to work, you have to transport yourself, you have to figure out how to warm up your food, because there's unfortunate discrimination and that happens when you're a foreigner, and so but what makes this movie so appealing to me are the characters. I think that Letitia Wright just nails this role, and is also has a great chemistry with Josh O'Connor, who plays like a security guard at the complex that she's living in. They strike up a strong friendship, and I think that they just their relationship is like that ray of hope that you hold on to throughout the course of her just running into roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. So I appreciated that a lot about this film, and I think it's kind of like The Courtroom, like you said, Baker. It's one that it takes place in Ireland, so this isn't necessarily representative of at least American immigration, or not immigrant, but asylum situations, but it does make you think about that process. Like, is this what people actually have to go through? That sounds awful. This sounds terrible. Why do we put people through this? And it makes you want to think and rethink the process. So now I want to move on to the one that we keep referencing throughout this film. This will be the last one that we talk about, at least in length, and that is the comedy Jerry and Marge Go Large, directed by David Frankel. And the screenplay is by Brad Copeland, starring, of course, Bryan Cranston and Annette Bening. Synopsis reads: in this charming, feel-great comedy inspired by a true story, recent retirees Jerry and Marge, Bryan Cranston and Annette Bening, discover a new sense of drive and a whole bunch of money when they find a legal loophole in the lottery system. All right, Baker, give me your thoughts on Jerry and Marge Go Large.
The experience of watching Jerry and Marge Go Large is much like describing the director and writer based on like one title from them. It's like watching the writer of Wild Hogs write a movie for the director of Marley and Me.
I was not expecting Wild Hogs to get dropped in this video, but there you
that
go.
quote on Rotten Tomatoes. There you go. That'll get some clicks.
Is it aesthetically nuanced? No. Is it excitingly written and original? No. Is it generally pleasant and one of the most thoroughly wrought films of the entire festival? Absolutely. It's exactly the Paramount Plus, as you've mentioned a few times. Thomas, is where it's being distributed. It's exactly the type of film that I imagine the audience that has a Paramount Plus subscription would want to watch. Something that is easy, inoffensive, pleasant, has moments of severe consequence that turns out pretty rosy, and two likable performers turning in performances that are simultaneously forgettable and never really off kilter. It's just kind of the perfect afternoon movie if you don't really want to pay attention but want to have a fine time.
Beaumont, do you concur?
I wholeheartedly concur. My sentiments exactly. Basically, it's a crowd pleaser. It's one for the parents. It's if Blockbusters were still around, this would be the film that your parents would pick out.
Oh, dude, it would be a whole wall.
Wall. Those movies that have like 50 entries on the wall. Like, yes, this Jerry and Marge Go Large. That's exactly what this would be.
Yeah. It's got a cute title. It's got it's got the cast that rings enough bells, both with our generation and our parents' generation, where it's just like a no-brainer. It's hokey. The performances are fine. I found them to be a little insincere at points, but like, sure, whatever. They worked, and the chemistry between Bryan Cranston and Annette Bening, I guess, was fine. So it kind of warms your heart that way. What else was I gonna say? You got Rainn Wilson in there basically playing the same role that he played in Juno. So that's fun, I guess. Back talking convenience store attendant.
Right.
Fun, sure. You got the, an antagonist who kind of is like every parent's nightmare, which is like, a little dweeby Mark Zuckerberg type that knows more math than you do, like, and can hack your computer. Like, that's every parent's nightmare right there. Get your money out of your account with their computer skills. It's fine. It's like the main threat, the main like dramatic tension there turns out to just be, not not all for naught, but just less of a a concern than you thought it was. So it's just a fun, enjoyable watch that way, and you're gonna come out of it feeling good if if this is the kind of film that appeals to you. So
yes,
thumbs up,
two
man.
thumbs up. There it is. There's the Rotten Tomatoes quote. Yeah, I think that Rosie is a really great word to put to this movie. It's just so easy and lighthearted. I think there was a point where I was waiting for the formula to like hit this like climactic moment where it's like, oh no, like everything is going to crumble.
The town is bankrupt.
The town is right. Something is going to go horrifically wrong because this is just too good to be true. No, this movie is just too good, right? Like it's and I guess I don't want to spoil the movie, but like it's feel good, right? Like when you start it, it's gonna have a happy ending, and you're just along for the ride. You're just there. You kind of want to help them count tickets.
I don't even know that you're along for the ride. It's just kind of happening in your vicinity,
right? I mean, you just kind of want to like, hey, can I? There's a lot of lotto tickets to go through. Can I help you? Right? Like, can I just like be there with you guys and like be a part of this feel good thing that's happening? So yeah, I think that it doesn't take itself too seriously. I think the villain is cringeworthy villainous, but that's intentional. I think that the protagonists and the town that they represent are so wholesome and just you can't be against any of it. And so like, yeah, exactly, you just swing your arm. That's exactly the way to do it.
Way to go, gang. Yeah,
yes,
neato.
exactly, neato. But I figured this is a good one to end on because I think that it's just it's hard to not like it, right? Like you may not care too much about how not technically advanced it is or how convoluted the plot, it's none of that. It knows what it is, it knows its audience, it just knows how to appeal to people on a broad scale, and it does that. So and I hope that my reviews and my feedback on these movies appeal to people on a broad scale as well.
Yeah, there you go.
So
why cook meth when you could just learn math?
When you just hack the lotto, right? Yeah. I was about to say there has to be some. I'm sure there are some reviews out there that have to connect, the Breaking Bad universe with the Jerry and Marge Go Large universe.
It's not hard. Michael McKean, guys. Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad. Boom.
There it is. That
there's my multiverse of madness. There
yes. All right, guys, you have one more movie to watch at Tribeca, and then that's the end of the festival. What are you watching, Beaumont? We'll start with you.
Blaze.
Yeah, I really wish I could get you that movie. I need to figure out what publicist or has that film or what festival it's playing at next, because I do think you will really like that one.
I'll do some digging as well. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. Baker, what about you?
One more movie. If I only have time to watch one more movie, it would be either Wounded Fawn or Karaoke. One of the two. Karaoke just sounds so pleasant.
It does sound pleasant. I think I would like to end the festival on a pleasant note. I'm gonna avoid the answer that Baker knows I want to say, and go with Karaoke. I think that would be a good one to end on.
What is the number one film you guys want to rewatch from this festival that played at this festival?
Beaumont.
I'm not prepared for this, but I saw that Babysitter was screening at part of this festival again, and
I did see that at Sundance, right?
Did enjoy that at Sundance, and I always like to support my Canadian brethren. Yeah. So, and it's a super visually distinct and just sugar coated in its presentation kind of film, kind of like a Greener Grass. And I think I said this before, but it's pretty nutty. It's pretty zany. It's also never takes itself seriously at all. So I kind of would like to revisit it. Yeah.
There you go.
Thomas, you?
I mean, come on. I actually watched it
Say
twice
the
this
correct
weekend.
answer.
Say the correct
answer.
answer is obviously Cha-Cha Real Smooth.
Beaumont, you failed.
I'm kidding. You know what? So I watched Cha-Cha Real Smooth twice this weekend, so I'm going to try not to talk too much about that. There's actually a short film that I watched at the festival that I just cannot stop watching. And it's this short film called We Dance. It's broken up into 3 chapters, and it's really just like this poetic recital of this couple, and it just uses poetry to like represent cooking and heritage and their relationship and moving through life. It just affects me on this like intangible level that I can't explain. But I put that on repeat. That movie is so, or that short film is so, it's just like soup for my soul. I love it. And I don't know if anyone else resonates with that kind of like poetic kind of presentation, but yeah, that hits me. And that is definitely one of my favorites, actually the favorite thing that I saw at Tribeca besides Cha-Cha. Baker, what about you?
Hard disagree.
Of course you would.
It's definitely Cha-Cha official competition. Come on, guys.
I was gonna say official competition.
Come on.
Which we all definitely saw for the first time at this festival, right?
Of course, we did not.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've never been to VIF. What's VIF?
I've never been to VIF. Actually, I actually think that VIF has. I saw a tweet or something about VIF screening that for with $10 tickets at a matinee or something like that. Sometime soon.
Yeah, it's officially in theatrical release right now.
I thought it wasn't going to be till August, but thank you for giving me a reason to go find a theater.
It's in Tacoma.
Oh, I only drive to Tacoma I only drive to Tacoma for Tenet during a pandemic. Okay.
We did not drive to Tacoma. We drove past Tacoma. We drove past Puyallup to go see Tenet.
That's true.
And we made Devin do it. So
that is true.
Roadie.
Worth it. Cool. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this wrap-up video up. So I appreciate you guys joining me. Baker, how can people find your content?
As always, drinkingthemovies.com. If you want to know more stuff about Twitter or Facebook or whatever, hit the about button and all that's there for you.
Yeah. And is there any other content that you want to plug that's coming up that people should keep an eye out for?
Oh boy, Bentonville started today, so we'll be doing Bentonville stuff. We got Fantasia coming out soon. We got
started today already.
Bentonville started today already. We got all the new release stuff coming out. Yeah, I don't know because we're recording late, so my brain isn't firing well, but we're daily, so come check us out.
Very cool. Beaumont, how can people find you and your content?
Well, I think this is the first video where we are using the rebranded This is ForReel.com.
ForReel.com.
At least the first time I've had to refer to it as such in a video. So yeah, this is ForReel.com. More reviews from Tribeca coming. I might be a little late on those, but going to try to do my best to get some more out. Other than that, social media at Best Reel, 2 T's REAL. And that's where I'm at Letterboxd as well, Instagram. Check it out. And I'm doing this video really reminded me how much fun I have doing these and how much fun festivals are. So yeah, I'm feeling rejuvenated for the summer. Eager to get into some more. So yeah.
Very cool. Obviously, just like Beaumont, you can find my content at thisisforreel.com. ForReel, of course, spelled FORREEL. All the social links are there, or they're in the description. I think this is what the influencers do. They point down to the description. So it might be down there. So you can follow those links to follow us on social media. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at beingtsj. And I'm trying to think, I haven't really looked past the 4th of July yet. So at this point, I'm just kind of finishing up Tribeca. And then after the 4th, I'm going to realize what I'm behind on. So
Fantasia, North Bend.
North Bend, yes, I am looking forward
There's
to
other
North
stuff
Bend,
that I can't think
Fantasia.
of.
So yeah, things are coming up. We'll be doing this again, I'm sure, soon. So guys, thank you so much for joining me on this video, and for everyone out there watching, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, this is For Real.